Okay, so these are the 5 steps. Identify the problem, what actually is happening. So remember, problem when I say identifying, right? So this is basically we are talking about the objective, right? Not that okay, I identified okay, this is your my sales is declining due to advertisement problem. This is not that. This is the first step. I'm identifying why my sales is declining. That is a problem. My sales is declining. That is my problem, right? So these are my objective. Though it is written that problem to solve problem objective, it is not that I'm solving, I'm giving them answers. I am acknowledging that there is a problem is happening and I have to solve that, right? Because remember, marketing research again is you might not have resources, you might have take time to collect data. So your higher management or the company has to decide, yes, is it a work problem to solve right now, right? So that is that they have to acknowledge or identify, yes, this is a big problem for me to solve, right? So that is where the identification of the problem, right? So when I say identification of problem, I'm not finding why the problem is happening. I'm just finding that, acknowledging that yes, there is a problem, my sales has declined, or the advertisement campaign which I've given did not work well, or there is a problem in my pricing, there is a problem in my product, but I do not know what are the problems, right? So that is where my first part, identify the problem. Identify the problem is acknowledging there is a problem to solve. There is a problem there, I want to understand that in detail. Then that is where your information needed. Okay, this is the problem, right? What can be the potential reasons for them? If my sales is declining, there can be 10 or 15 reasons, right? So those are the things I have to list down. What kind of information I'm going to collect, because I do not know. If I have the information, I need not go and collect the data. I can just put in those queries in my database. So that is where your data analytics come into picture, right? You have database, as a data analyst or business analyst, just your manager, marketing manager will tell, get me the salesperson wise details, what are the sales for last 5 years, or give me the distributor wise, retailer wise details, right? So if you have that kind of information, you do not have to go and collect that information, right? So this is where you have to find out what kind of information you need, right? Then research and analysis methods, right? So like Saurabh was asking, it is not necessarily you always have to go and do a questionnaire or survey. Some information already there in your internal database. That is secondary research. You have the information. You have the sales data, or you have the uh, all the website. You have a website, how many visitors are visiting that website, how many of them are clicking on those buttons. All those information you are collecting in a database. So you need not have to, you just have to download that data and analyze that, right? Not necessarily you have to go and survey, do questionnaire every time. 60 to 70% of the times you can, like in today's world. Earlier what used to happen, we did not use to collect that data. So every time we need to go and ask that question. Right now every any company you think of, they are collecting like n amount of data, right? So most of the times amount data will be available with you. You just have to find out what kind of data you require, right? Then responsible parties, right? Whom to collect that data, right? Sometimes what might happen, data or the information might be at different silos, right? And that is the biggest problem, right? Most of the companies do not have a centralized database where they have all those information. Sometimes people keep data on manually also, right? You need to collect data on okay, how much time it takes to move your product from plant A to warehouse, from how much time from warehouse to retailer or distributor. Actually, that information is not there in your database. It might be just your warehouse manager, they're noting out in manually in some Excel files, and that is their offline files in their laptop or desktop. So that is somewhere your simple task will be to collect that Excel files, collect the data itself, right? So do not think marketing research is always going and doing a questionnaire or survey. Obviously, that is a part of it, but it can be as simple as that, collecting that information, collecting that file from those stakeholders. So those are the responsible parties, right? So do not keep all these business analyst, data analyst, business research, marketing research, all those separate, right? All of them have combined to solve a problem, right? Conduct research, keep You know that okay, this can be solved through a secondary data, right? So that is a secondary data. Already information is available. You are kind of acknowledge like collecting that data, right? Or it might be primary data. When you understand, no, I need to go to customers, why they have stopped buying this. I do not have the customer data, or I do not have the sales data also, right? In some cases, if it is a small startup, they might not be keeping that also, right? Then you might have to go and collect that data, right? So how you collect that data, right? Is it a quantitative method, qualitative method, depending upon the problem, right? Different methods you have to employ, right? Do I need to conduct a focus group or your interviews or survey method, right? Based on the information you are collecting, right? Uh, there is a like kind of at least now at least it has improved a lot in rural villages, but there was a stigma, kind of a aversion for rural women to use sanitary napkins. So here there you cannot go and ask that okay, do you use sanitary napkins? How many you use in a month or in a quarter, right? So that is somewhere you might have to go with a qualitative research. Medical medicines, right? Those things, right? You cannot just ask that okay, how many medicines you take, what kind of most of the people will not give you answer for those kind of questions, right? Which is very personal. You need to dig deep. You need to understand why something is happening. So conducting a qualitative research is very difficult. See, people talk about quantitative, okay, numbers, this calculation, that is easy. There are softwares which can do you that work. You once you collect data, you need not have to worry about that. But actually conducting a qualitative research, understanding why somebody is doing this, right? As a customer, obviously, because market research means we are looking into customers or consumers, right? Think about in this way, cigarettes, right? We talk about addiction and all those things, right? There are a lot of advertisement from government, from like kind of NGOs and all those things. Still, smoking habit is there, right? How that habit is formed, right? I can just go and ask that quantitatively. How many cigarettes do you smoke per day? How many years you have been smoking, right? Or I can do a qualitative research and dig deep how that habit was formed. Do like that person gives certain effort to change that habit, right? So depending upon what kind of question you are asking, right? Let's say this a lot of companies right now launching this non-alcoholic beverages, right? I just cannot go and ask that okay, if I launch a non-alcoholic beverages, generally how many like how much you will buy, and like in ml or liters, right? Have you consumed any non-alcoholic beverages? So it will not give me any answer, right? But that I can change it to qualitative research to understand what are the behavioral attitude towards certain beverages, right? So that is somewhere you have to define your research methods from the beginning before you execute, right? It is again, I'm repeating, not all the answers can be collected over a questionnaire or survey. Some information data is already available. You need not have to waste your time to go and collect that data. Some information which need to be on primary level, you have to go and collect data, need to be in a quantitative form, survey questionnaires, or it can be in qualitative form, that is your focus group discussions or in-depth interviews or projective techniques, right? Then once you collect data, right, then analysis part, right, which will spend time, little bit of more time covering those whatever tests, right? And don't worry about that, right? That can be done very simply, right? As long as you understand what is your problem, right? Most of us think that I do not know, I do not know regression, right? Or I do not know this conjoint factor, right? That is the easier part. Defining the problem in the beginning. what actually my problem is, right? That is the most difficult part. So obviously then analysis, then you report and recommendations, right? Take actions, right? Then once you know that, let's say that sales decline, we found there are 2 or 3 regions, right? Then what kind of actions will be taken, right? Then obviously your higher management will take those actions or recommend those actions. Then you come back and say that after 6 months or 1 year, whatever actions you took, did it actually fructify, that actually gave you certain results? If not, then again course adjustment and execution, right? So that is the last part. Most of the market research agencies will give you, let's say Nielsen or whichever company, IMRB International, they'll give you till this point of time, right? Then once they give the recommendation, this is up to the company what actions they're taking, right? Any questions on this?
No, sir.
Okay, just quickly go through all those steps again. Again, I've shared the slide. In between, you have any questions, please stop me. So the first part, obviously, problem identification or research objectives, right? Again, repeating, marketing research problem is not the problem with marketing research. It is what is my objective, right? Marketing research objective. What I want, what kind of information I want to collect. It is as simple as that, right? So these are the decision problem. Decision problem obviously has to come first, right? This is my problem. This I acknowledge that that problem is happening. Then I need to collect data to understand why that problem is happening, right? So that will be my research problem. So developing an approach, how to go about it. Most of the times we don't start with an actual we discussion with decision makers, experts, right? We understand what kind of information we have, right? Secondary data, right? Then qualitative research. That is, we go to sales managers, marketing managers, advertisement agencies, talk to them, right? Then our decision problem and research problems are defined. Then how to like go about, and if I decide that this is the problem and these are the information I have to collect, right? Then again, sometimes I might have to form hypothesis. So hypothesis, the research question difference is, if I know for certain or I have a solid assumption that this might be the problem, then I create a hypothesis which I can test. But if I'm not certain, I do not have a theoretical background, I just can put a research question. Just to give an example, in this particular case, when sales is declining, right? Uh, I might say that if I have certain data point and I have observed the sales for last 2 or 3 years, I might say that let's say this is for a Netflix, right? I'm doing this research for Netflix. Netflix has certainly decline in the subscriptions, right? So those people in a particular area, particular country, there is a reduction in number of people who have subscribed to the basic or the premium plans, right? It can be in two way. I do not have any clue why it is happening. I can say that, okay, to understand the regions or factors for the decline in subscription basic or whatever premium in, let's say, India or in Maharashtra, if it is a state wise, I have the data, right? So that can be my research question, to understand the factors so that it can be explored. Or if I have, so those primary earlier research for last 2 3 years, now we have understood the pattern. Because COVID has happened, a lot of people had taken subscriptions. Right now, due to their going back to their work, they have canceling that subscription, right? So I can compare. There is a, due to COVID, there was an increase of the like post COVID, due to like kind of now opening up of economy, opening up of country, there is a reduction in subscription by 10% or 20%, right? So I know, so I have a certain assumption that this is happening due to COVID, right? So whenever I have those assumptions, or because that assumptions I cannot just, it should not come to my mind, right? I have certain data. I know that if I compare the data for last 5 years, for the last like let's say 2017, 18, 19, when COVID was not there, I have the subscription data. Then 2019, 20, sorry, 2020, 21, I have the subscription data. And in 2022, current year, suddenly subscription have been reducing. So now I can have a comparison, right? And say that, okay, COVID might be the reason. So that when I have a basis of my assumption, right, and which I can test, that can be a hypothesis, right? Don't worry, again, when we discussed about hypothesis testing, that will be repetition. But anyway, remember, like whenever we have a basis of assumption, okay, due to COVID, there is a decline in subscription, and that is what I want to test. That can be a hypothesis. But when I do not know, there can be many other reasons also. There is a like Prime Video is giving certain offers, or Disney Hotstar is giving more offers, or there are 23 other OTT channels, or people can just download from Telegram or some other sites. They need not have to subscribe, right? I do not know, right? So in that case, I can just have a research question to understand the factors or reasons to why the declining subscriptions are happening, right? Any questions on this? So this is the interesting case, though the product did not succeed to that extent, right? One of the big problem for the refrigerator marketers was their products in rural market was not selling, right? So they went on and carried a market research. So their initial assumption was that because price, so price people might not pay, let's say 12,000, 15,000, or 20,000 for a refrigerator. That was their initial assumption. But actually, when, and it was long back, I think 10 or 15 years back. But actually, when they went on and carried out a market research, obviously not on all the rural locations, particularly Haryana, Punjab, Maharashtra, Pune, certain locations where villagers also are wealthy, right? They can afford those, right? So the challenge was not that the pricing part. The initial assumption was that pricing is not kind of uh, okay for those rural customers. But that did not emerge when they actually went on and did that research. Most of the villagers were facing the issue of power cut, right? Right now, obviously, these situations have improved. But if you go back 10 or 15 years, if some of you are in those villages, a lot of times you will have a 6 hours to 8 hours power cut in a day, right? Or more than that in some cases. Some villages did not have the proper electrification, right? So power, like there were a lot of power fluctuations, all those things, right? So in that scenario, even they can afford those products, right? Certain areas, not obviously all the rural villages, they are not willing to buy because it will just come and sit idle, right? They cannot use that product, right? Then their decision problem now change, right? Decision problem is not because now the pricing is not a problem. The decision problem is now the what kind of product will be suitable for a rural market where you have a huge problem of electricity. Now you go and find out what kind of requirement are from rural market, right? What will be the size of that refrigerator? Actually, how much power, like kind of outage they have? All those information you collect, and then you come back to your engineering team and design a product. This was from which one? Godrej or somebody? I forgot the company's name. They created this Chotocool product. It is basically like kind of a battery-driven small refrigerator for these villages where you do have a problem of this power or electricity, right? So this is where you go with a certain assumptions to the market and find out that that actually is not correct, right? I think Nilesh is telling it is Godrej and Co. Yeah. Then developing the research plan, right? So in your research plan, these are the 5 things which should come, right? Data sources. Data sources can be primary or secondary. Whether so So that's what I was telling you, right? I should not go and jump that, okay, prepare a questionnaire and carry out survey. No, I might have that data. I might download that data from my company database, or somebody in the warehouse or supply chain have the data in their local database. I just have to collect that data. So data sources, where should I collect that data? Right. Once I know that what kind of data information, my marketing research problem is that these are the information I should collect. Right. Now I have to tell that where to collect that data. Right. Research approaches. Right. This is again we'll discuss in detail. There are different research approaches. Like the problem I was telling, that is exploratory. I want to understand why my sales is declining. That is explore. I want to explore. That is a exploratory research approach. Or I know that Netflix knows that due to COVID, post COVID, there is a opening of economy, opening of country. Many IT personals are going back to their offices. So I have certain assumption. So now I'm describing. So I'm testing my hypothesis. So I might say that due to opening of economy, there will be a decline of 10% or 20% of subscriptions. Because that I have that data that yes, pre-COVID this was the subscription. During COVID subscriptions increased, and now post-COVID when country is opening up, there will be a decline. Or it can be something causal, right? Causal research is the most difficult part because there are a lot of debate on that. If this is happening, right? Whether there was a recently in LinkedIn, I was reading an article. Right, Dan Ali is one big author in behavioral economics. So his statement or hypothesis is that the more the cashless the society becomes, the more the moral degradation. That means if more people carry out online transactions without cash, right? Cash means you have that physical cash in your hand, right? The more they kind of delve into different illegal activities, right? That is one challenge in if some of you have taken blockchain, right? One of the biggest problem or adoption in blockchain is that can be because your identity or privacy is maintained. People can do anything, right? They can buy, sell drugs, do anything on the internet in the dark web. So if that is something I want to understand, right? Is it true? If your society becomes less cashless, like if people do not spend from that wallet, is there a increase in this kind of illegal activities, moral degradation, right? So that is where I'm trying to link two things, variable X and Y, causal research, right? Cause and effect. Establishing that is the one of the most difficult thing in social research. That is something again we'll discuss in detail, different approaches for that. Then contact methods. How you are going to contact means if let's say primary data or secondary data, how you are going to collect that data through email, through going visiting physically, right? If or online this Zoom or whatever uh, WebEx or Microsoft Team you have, what kind of contact method you have, right? Before COVID happened, I think most of us are unaware about these online video platforms, right? Now at least we are all accustomed and kind of experiment with this kind of video platforms. Then the most important is sampling plan. How many? Because see, my like for ITC, out of 120 crore, 50 crore or 60 crores are the or less than that, little less than that might be their customers or consumers, one or other product. I cannot go in if I'm doing the consumer research. I cannot go and ask all of them, right? How many people I should collect data from if I'm doing a primary research. So if it is a secondary research, anyhow I have the data, so I need not have to have a sampling plan. But if it is a primary data, I'm collecting data from for first time, right? So that will be your sampling plan. I will be needing a sampling plan. Next is research instrument, right? Questionnaire is a research instrument. Focus group is a research instrument. How, like what method I'll take to collect data, right? whether through a questionnaire or if it is a qualitative interviews, focus group discussion, right? Or databases, right? I'll go and so there is something called web scraping, right? If I want to understand something on the recent purchase behavior of customers, rather than going and asking customers, if I can write codes on Python, I can just go and download that data from different websites, customer feedback, and I can download that and carry out text analytics. So there are a lot of ways, right? So what kind of research instrument you are going to use, right? So data sources, secondary research, primary research. So secondary research can be external, like if I'm taking a government database, sometimes I might have, there are many consultants. So they have ready-made reports. You pay $10,000, $15,000, and they give you those reports. I need not have to actually go and do that research. They have already done that for me. If you just go and search for certain keyword, automobile market in India, electric vehicle market in India, there are certain consultants who have already done that research. For $5,000, $2,000, they will give you that report. So those are external resources. Published research, syndicated research, government sources, internal resources, which is available inside company, right? Feedback, customer feedback, company report, right? Primary research, you go and collect data, right? So these any of these things we'll discuss in the next slide. So now coming back to research design, your research approaches, right? It can be exploratory or conclusive. Exploratory meter, I do not know the region. I want to explore certain factors, certain things. Sales is declining. I want to explore why sales is declining. Or it can be conclusive. I have an assumption. I have a hypothesis. I want to test that. So I have a hypothesis that due to like this same example, right? Now opening up economy, there will be decline in subscription by 10%. That is what I want to test. That can be descriptive, or it can be causal research. The like more people do this kind of online transactions, right, without have to paying money from their wallet, they will get into different illegal activities, immoral activities, right? That can be a causal research, right? Then descriptive can be of two types: cross sectional and longitudinal. Anybody knows what is that? What do you mean a cross sectional research and longitudinal research?
Sir, does it mean across the verticals?
Which one, cross sectional?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone
Sir,
else?
cross-sectional research means like we in that research we analyze certain variables of data at a particular point of time.
Okay. Longitudinal?
Sir, longitudinal is
Sir, in
it is a
longitudinal,
research
sir,
where it involves like repetitive number of observations.
Is it related to time, sir? Cross-sectional is over one at a point of time, and longitudinal is at comparing over a different period of time.
Okay. Can you give an example?
So for like in cross-sectional, for example, we are if we are finding a reason as to if I've collected a data on at a point of time, for example, on 2003, and we have to comparing with different point of time like 2003, 4, 5, then that is longitudinal. And just in 2003, what is the data we have gathered, that is cross-sectional.
Okay. Anyone else wants to give an example? Cross sectional and longitudinal. Definitions are correct. What Nilesh Pritish told. Yes.
sir,
That. Yeah.
sir, in a cross-sectional, sir, we can take a survey during the time of winter only. The product is only for a winter time. So in that
Okay.
case, we have to take a specific time of winter. But if you take the example of longitudinal, suppose, sir, the rainy season is for 3 months. So we have to take each 15 days of rains data for the crop, sir.
Okay. Ipsita?
Sir, if we take an organization, so if in organization we will have 10 people. So for example, from 2010 to 2022, we will be asking same certain questions to those same set of people, and their answers may vary with the years. So that will be in the longitudinal.
Okay. And cross-sectional?
Um, So cross-sectional, I have to think, sir.
Okay. Yes, Surajit.
Sir, in cross-sectional design, it can be like comparing multiple regions, cells for cells at once. And in longitudinal design, we are looking at a particular region, their sales value over a period of time.
Okay. Okay. Yes, most of it.
Sir,
Yes. Yes, Nilesh, go on.
sir, for cross-sectional research, can this be an example? Like there are a certain group of people who are of different ages, but I am investigating them at one point of time. So it can be called as an example of cross-sectional research, right?
Yes. So cross-sectional is basically you are collecting the information at one point of time, once only, right? So when I say once, it can be like kind of for next 3 months or 5 months because collecting data takes time, right? So it is not that in a single day I'm able to collect data. But from the respondents, I'm collecting data information only once, right? Across different geographies, different behavioral or psychographic dimensions. Once I selected my sample, okay, I'll collect this data for once, right? But longitudinal is across years, not only years, across different time frames, right? If I say that in different 6 months or different 3 months quarterly, I'll collect the data for next 6 quarters or 9 quarters or 12 quarters, right? That becomes a longitudinal design, right? Then in longitudinal, there are different types of longitudinal design, like Ipsita was mentioning. It can be of the same people, right? Let's say there are loyal employees in your company who have been working for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, right? Same set of employees, I can carry out a longitudinal research for next 3 years. Or those employees, because employees move out of the company, right? Not necessarily they will be in your company, right? But I can give that those people who have completed 5 years of work, those people who have completed 10 years of work in your company, right? Because see, today if I am carrying out a survey in 2022, those people who are in 4 years have completed 4 years or 9 years or 14 years. Next year, when I do a conduct a longitudinal research, they are actually eligible for my research because they are now at a completed 5 years, right? So my sample unit might also change. So that is one type of design, right? Where new people might be included in the research, or it can be other way around. I'll fix that number in 2022, those people who have completed 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years. So let's say 50, 50, 50 each. Next year, when I'm conducting, I'll go to the same people only, same employees. Out of that, 5 might have resigned, 10 might have resigned. Then my sample size will decrease, but I'll not include new numbers, right? So that is a different type of longitudinal regions. We'll come back and discuss that later on. But remember, longitudinal is a different time frame. You are collecting information from the respondents. Cross-sectional, different set of parameters. You are collecting information, but you are collecting information only once, not a different time frame. That time frame can be defined as per your research requirement. Most of the economics research being done, like let's say if I want to carry out a 5-year plan research, so I'll get the data at 5 years of interval, so that my time frame is 5 years. Or election research, what are the motivation at different elections, these municipality elections, state elections, Vidhan Sabha elections, or your Lok Sabha elections, right? So depending upon when elections are happening, that can be my time frame, right? But it can be 1 year also for companies like I think who was mentioned Sorojit. Sales, I want to understand the difference in sales or different in consumer behavior for particular product in different years. That can be my longitudinal. For the same people, same set of consumers, I can go and ask about the my product line for next 3 years or 5 years. But if I go and collect data only once, 2022, that's it. Whatever insights I get, and I publish my report, publish my research, that will be cross-sectional, right? What is the adoption of electric vehicles, or let's say Ola scooter has launched, right? I can uh, carry out two different type of research. I'll go and ask those whoever has booked Ola scooters after 6 months or 1 year towards October or November in 2022. What has been their experience of electric scooters, right? And whatever the experiences, I publish that as my report. Negative, positive, whatever the answers, I publish that. That is a cross-sectional design. But beforehand, I target that no, I'll collect that data for next 3 years, and I want to understand what are the changes in attitude, because this is a technological adoption, right? As and when new technology comes up, it takes time for people to adopt to that technology. So I'll say that I'll collect the data for next 3 years, then I'll publish my report. That will be a better approach because I know that attitude will keep changing, right? And new customers will come up. Then that will be my longitudinal research, right? Different time frames, I'm collecting data, right? So that will be my longitudinal research. Is it clear or any doubt?
No, sir.
So again, like this part we have discussed. Later on when we get into the actual research approaches, we'll discuss that again. Exploratory, I want to understand preliminary information, right? As the name suggests, right, explore something, right? Descriptive, describing in detail problem, situations, market, customers. I have certain assumptions. Now I want to understand, is my assumption correct or not, right? It can be qualitative, quantitative, exploratory, most of the times qualitative, because I want to dig deep, right? I want to understand why something is happening, right? Is there a problem in my sales? Is there a problem in my advertisement campaign? Did the new product which I launched, people did not like it, right? Why people did not like my new product or new services, right? Causal is test hypothesis about the cause and effect relationship, right? Due to this, the other thing is happening, right? So this is where we have to. This is a very big debate in social science, in marketing research. Even the bigger companies like Nielsen face difficulty. Ideally, with a survey, you will not able to establish a causal relationship. Experimentation need to be done, and that is somewhere we will talk about the market testing or test marketing towards the end of the class, right? And we'll discuss why that is so important. So again, exploratory research, diagnosing a situation, screening alternatives, discovering new idea, produce hypothesis. This actually helps you to produce hypothesis. The same question which I was telling, right? Netflix, COVID, right? Before that, if they have done exploratory research, going to people and asking why in last 2 years they had subscribed to Netflix, right? The answer might have been that okay, because they were at home parallelly managing work and homework, and they started watching Netflix or Prime Video and then start thinking of taking subscriptions, right? So that will give me idea, okay, because people were at home, they were subscribing to Netflix or Prime Video or Disney Hotstar, right, or any other channel, right? And that will help me to produce hypothesis. Hypothesis means assumptions which can be tested statistically or mathematically, right? It is as simple as that. Any assumption which I am keeping or which I am making prior based on certain data, certain information which can be tested, right? Which can be tested empirically, either statistically or mathematically. Descriptive research describe characteristics of group, determine proportion of people who act in a certain way. Consumer group from 15 to 25 will be preferring to have online accounts rather than visiting branches, right? Think about these new teenagers and people like in your group, right? You might not like to go to a bank having that physical passbook, getting every time updated, right? Because you have been accustomed to do online transactions, right? So that is something I might have an assumption or a hypothesis, and I want to understand that people in the age group of 15 to 25 might be more inclined to do online transaction in comparison to their older age groups, right? Then I can collect data and understand whether my hypothesis was correct or not. Make predictions, determine relationship between variables, right? So this is a relationship. Online transactions is dependent on age group, right? So now we'll say that more the younger age group will be much more inclined to online transactions than older age groups. Types can be longitudinal or cross-sectional, which we discussed earlier. Causal research, is there a relationship, not only relationship, is Y or X causes Y, right? Humidity increases, rain happens. Yes, sir. Yeah. Hello. Saurabh, you are not audible.
Sir, actually, I have one question, sir. Can you explain causal relationship once again, sir?
Yeah. So anyhow, I'll discuss now only. Causal research is or causal relationship is if X happens or Y happens because of Y X, right? Let's say if I say that my revenue increase for the Fortune 500 companies, revenue increases by 5% for any new product they launch, right? So what is my reason cause? That is my new product launch. What is my effect? 5% or 3% or 2% increase in revenue, right? So this is what your new product launch every year. If I keep launching new product, right? So every year there will be increase in 2% of revenue due to this new product launch. So my effect is this 2% increase in revenue, right? That is a cause and effect relationship. But why it is problematic now? Let us try to understand. Because revenue is increasing due to multiple reasons. Your product quality has improved. You have a excellent sales people or sales directors, sales managers, or competitors failed. Competitors' product failed, so you got more market share, revenue increase, or there can be multitude of reasons, right? So finding out that okay, only for your new product launch there is a increase of 2% of revenue becomes very difficult, because that cannot be the only reason, right? Revenue is increasing for multiple of reasons. But if I can carry out an experiment and finalize that and say that due to if companies start keeping launching new product, on an average there will be 2% increase in revenue year on year. So then my cause becomes the new product launch and effect becomes the 2% increase in revenue. So the most of the debate happens, or the like problem with causal research is proving this becomes very difficult. Because imagine the scenario. It is very straightforward. I'm saying if you launch a new product every year, will keep increasing 2% revenue, which is excellent research. But how will I prove that? Because revenue increases for thousands of reasons, something which is not in the control of company also. Indian government tomorrow will say that okay, will not import anything on a particular product, make in India. So people will get patriotic suddenly for few months and start buying made in India products, and companies revenue increase. So there are a lot of things which is not in your control also. So how to prove that this actually this is the only reason for why, right? And that is why causal research is most difficult one. So most of the times people stop at exploratory, then your descriptive research. Because in descriptive, what I'm telling, this might be one of the reason. But in causal, what is telling, this is the only reason. This happens due to that this is happening. For every new product launch, you will have an increase of 2% revenue, right? I can do that a descriptive research. Revenue increases happens due to new product launch, your new kind of advertisement campaigns, your relationship between your channel partners, your digital marketing campaigns, your introduction of CRM. There can be multiple reasons, and I can list down those factors, and I'll put money on those factors. But when I say that, okay, for every new product launch, your increase in revenue is 2%, that is something which I have to prove, because I'm telling this is the only reason, right? And that is where carrying out a causal research is very difficult. Uh, is the definition clear, or the example is clear, or any question on that?
It's clear, sir.
Okay. So now there are few conditions for causal research. One of them is very easy, which is concomitant variation or covariation. If I say that, okay, this increases, right? I keep launching new product and my revenue increases, right? So that is very easy to prove, right? So every year I'll just go through the 500 companies data and I'll list down how many new products they have launched, and I'll look into the revenue number, and I'll say that, okay, there is a correlation, or I'll put a regression model and say that there is a concomitant variation. That means both are increasing or decreasing, both are moving into same direction. Variations remain same, covary. So that is a concomitant variation, which is easy, right? I'll just collect data and prove that. Then little bit difficult is the time order of occurrence, right? Because when I'm saying that my revenue is increasing due to new product launch, right? So whatever data I'm collecting, my revenue data, when I'm collecting after new product launch, then how much time gap should be given? That need to be clarified. After new product launch, after 1 year I should collect data, or 2 year I should collect data, right? Because sales is happening every year, every month, every day, right? What data I should collect? Because when I say time order of occurrence, it should not happen that my revenue is increasing, that's why I'm launching many more new products. It can be other way around also. That is the same thing. If some of you are in the B2B class, the rule of thumb method, your advertisement is proportion of your sales or profit. So what will happen? Your sales or profit increases, your advertisement also will increase. Then which one is causing what? Whether increase in advertisement is giving sales, or increase in sales is giving more advertisement. Both are related, right? So that is something proving is very difficult. Time order of occurrence. By launching new product, you are increasing revenue, or by increasing revenue, you have money to spend on new product launch. Because both can be related also, right? So how to prove that the time order of occurrence? Because I have to prove that if X is the cause of Y, X happened first, then only Y happened. Without X, if I say that I do not launch new products, then there is no increase in revenue. I have to prove that. Then absence of other. So if you see the concomitant variation, two variables are moving together, moving in the same direction. That is easiest to prove. Little more difficult is time order of occurrence. I have to say that X happened, then only Y happened. Then the most difficult part, and this is where all the debate happens. How can I prove that there are no other possible causal factors? That is where the design of experiment, the ANOVA, which we'll discuss in detail, how to design an experiment, saying that this is the only reason. Because there can be a revenue increase, there can be thousands of reasons. But when I'm telling that if you launch a new product, if you are a Fortune 500 company, 2% year on year revenue growth will happen, or 1% year on year revenue growth will happen. So how to ensure that there are no other regions for that 1% growth? That is the most difficult part, right? Is it clear, or any doubt?
Clear.
Then research approaches. This we have discussed, right? How you like kind of. There are again secondary research, primary research, right? Qualitative, quantitative. What kind of information you are collecting, right? Then typical cost, obviously, like again depending upon, because COVID happened, it is easy to collect data online, right? Through online interviews, email. But actual research happens when you go to customers, right? and collect that information, right? Think about those market research agencies. They put a lot of money, a lot of resources, sending those executives to the field, collecting data, right? Most of the information, if you just send a questionnaire or survey, people will just put tick marks. People will just put certain numbers or certain answers, right? Which might not be correct, right? And then at typical time, secondary research obviously is short because already you have that information. You just have to find out from where you have to download the data. Surveys, medium. Focus groups also medium. Interviews short to medium, depending upon how many interviews you are taking. Experiments and field trials, right? That usually long because you have to like send certain product, carry out those product testing in certain market. You have to plan. So when I say usually long, in comparison to surveys and your interviews, right? Surveys, interviews you can complete within 1 month. Experiments, field trials, at least few months will be required. Similarly, observation, right? This is excellent thing, right? Most of the retail research, right, is observational based research. You need not have to do anything. Shadow, like kind of you go and shadow customers, right? So most of these market research companies do that. Executives will go stand in the retail stores and observe how consumers are buying. They will not ask any questions because consumers obviously will get irritated when you go. They came to store to buy something and you ask questions, madam, how much grocery items you bought, how frequently you buy, right? They might get irritated. You just observe and note down. You will like be in the getup of this store employees and shadow customers. Most of the fashion products, Jara, those kind of fashion apparels, they send their employees to go and visit the stores, how people choose different fashion items. So that is a observational based research. So you do not have to do a survey, put questionnaire, interview. You just observe how people are behaving. Right now, not only through human observations, because most of the kind of stores are cameras are there, right? High intensity cameras you put across stores that will record customers visit. In US and Europe, they put cameras in the shelves also, right? In the shelves where you are putting those products. So your observations, eye movement are also being tracked. So not necessarily you have to put certain resources, executives in the store to observe customers, right? So we will, I think next class I'll show you certain videos how actually they're doing. People are giving those eye tracking devices. So just a simple goggle, right? Before you enter a store, they'll give you to wear that glass goggles. Then you make a visit, you buy like whatever you want to buy, and before going, you just give that goggle to that person. So your eye movement also can be tracked. Which are the product you saw, or which are the product you actually took and read the instructions, right? Everything can be tracked. But again, like those are costly, not necessarily we are doing that in India. So how much time is now? Okay, so we'll stop here for today. Rest of the slides I think we'll discuss in the next class. We're going a little bit of slow, but okay, we'll try to complete this in the next class. Okay, go through the slide. I had already shared. In case of any doubt, we'll spend certain time in next class, and then we'll try to complete this number of slides in the next class. And any last question before we complete?
Sir, I missed my attendance. Sadarsh 002.
Okay. Anyone else?
Sir,
091.
091. Okay. Anyone else?
Sir, 147.
147. Okay. Okay. Chalo, take care.